Now, one of the new mysterious characters that was introduced in Amphorius in 3.1 was this very ominous swordsman, wearing a cloak and hunting down both the demigods and the titans, also on a mission to collect the core flames. And he is an antagonist strong enough that warranted an entire party of us to fend him off and a new demigod, Mightios, to actually deal with him. But who is he exactly? And is he truly gone? The short answer? Of course not. The first thing I thought of right away is that this mysterious cloaked individual is actually Phainon. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, that doesn't make any sense because Phainon was there to help us fend him off, and Phainon actually hates this guy. This mysterious individual is the reason for Phainon's village being destroyed, and his family and friends killed, along with Cyrene, who is teased at the end of 3.0 and then again in 3.1. So if he hates this guy and fought against him, how could it be him? Let's break it down. This quest mainly focused on expanding the world of Amphorius and its characters, like Tribby and Mighty, but there's a lot of little details that if you piece them together, it all points towards this, and after rewatching the cutscene, it just was so obvious. They did a very good job at expanding the relationship and the friendship between Mighty and Phainon. They have a really good rivalry going, and at the end of the day, they respect each other. The whole quest starts off as having to pull Phainon out of the trial of strife. He just couldn't handle it. He has too much trauma and it got the best of him, which is fine, he's only human. But he is said to be the deliverer and the most exceptional of the flame chasers, right? Well, when Mighty is actually about to take the trial himself, he entrusts Phainon with his secret of how to kill him, his weak point, seeing as that his father dumped him in the River of Souls. So he shares with Phainon how to actually kill him, and yet this Flame Reaver knew exactly where to target Mighty. Now, I don't know how much this is evidence, because maybe both Phainon and the Flame Reaver can use both hands for combat. The Flame Reaver was shown to have two weapons, but they both use their left hand. Another kind of small indicator is just their posture, their build, their aesthetic, and the way they fight. It's very similar, and it's the first thing I thought of the minute we met the Flame Reaver. But a big part of this story quest was learning about Tribby or Tribios, going into the past and seeing how the very first flame chaser gained the core flame, her learning the prophecy and reciting it. Overthrow the gods, return the core flames. Inherit divine authority, forge godly miracles. Go kill, go mourn. Kill my kin, mourn our fates. Ferry the spirits of the gods, nourish the land with divine essence. Yet thou shalt remember, yet thou must remember. All shall bid farewell to one, and that one person alone will witness the miracle. Only one shall live to the end, and they alone will witness Era Nova. Such is destiny. So essentially, one flame chaser will live to the end after this whole prophecy is over and see the end era, which I already talked about in my recap. It's gonna be Phainon. He's the most exceptional, he's the deliverer. I mean, the guy is Kevin Kaslana's export, let's be honest here. And let's look at how 3.0 and 3.1 end and start. 3.0 ends with Phainon entering the Trial of Strife, and we get a recap of his past. His friends and family butchered, his friend, Cyrene, killed. He's had a very traumatic childhood and past, which makes him so driven in becoming the person he is today. But that same past and trauma is what caused him to fail the Trial of Strife. And this Flame Reaper, who I believe to be Phainon, is probably that one survivor that got to witness Era Nova, who has come to the past and is trying to kill both the demigods, the flame chasers, and the titans to gain the core flames for himself. Let's look at some other evidence. They do a really good job at setting up this friendship and rivalry between Phainon and Mighty. Mighty actually revealing a huge secret. It cannot be a coincidence that they build the relationship and friendship between Phainon and Mighty throughout 3.1, and it's Mighty that defeats the Flame Reaver, allegedly, who is able to even escape the confines of time which they trapped him in. And like I already stated in the video, goes right for Mighty's weak point, and then ironically Phainon actually saves him, and then Mighty, quote-unquote, defeats and kills this mysterious person. Phainon's the only person that knew his weak point, yet the Flame Reaper went right for it. That alone is enough evidence to warrant a theory, but there's so much more. Just look at the Flame Reaper's aesthetic, the Easter eggs, and the way he fights, his overall stature. He even uses a greatsword like Phainon. The last time I got these kind of vibes was when I originally called that Sunday followed the order. If you didn't trust me then, now's a good time to start. Obviously I'm joking, I'm wrong about plenty of things, but not this. But then even look at Mem when we first meet the Flame Reaper. They went through so much trouble at the end of 3.0 and the beginning of 3.1 to set up how Phainon has this dark past. Cyrene being somebody that we already suspect is linked to both Mem and March 7th. Maybe even that 13th Titan. The mother of Titans, if you will. Now the Flame Reaper is intelligent. He knows exactly what he's doing. The irony of this is that Phainon and Anixa themselves actually figure out that the Flame Reaper is strategic in targeting specific spots. He knew to go for Anixa at the Grove, go for the core flame within him, and then knew to attack Orynyx, the Titan of Time, and that's where he actually attacked the trio demigods of passage. Look how Mem reacts. This person is the source of the smell and the memory. No, he's basically the memory itself. The burning paradise, the shattered sun, and then it shows Cyrene again. The same thing that was teased at the end of 3.0, when talking about Phainon's dark past. Carnage, death, and destruction. The black sword and the cloak. The north wind that sent over the Destiny's fog. Thanatos, the Titan of Death. So the Flame Reaper or future Phainon could have already taken down Thanatos, and that's why we haven't been able to find the Titan of Death. But then he states, "You're not demigods. Stand down or die." So this person is dangerous, will kill you, but they give us the choice to stand down. So they're not just a complete mindless manifestation of the Black Tide or malice. They do have a rhyme and reason, and what they're trying to accomplish right now. But if this is Phainon from the future, and the prophecy came to fruition, the one who got to see the new era, then why is he doing this? Why is he in the past, trying to kill his comrades? And how is he in two places at once? And why did he attack his own village, kill his own friends and family? These can all actually be explained. Something that's not a surprise to absolutely anyone that's playing through this. The Flame Chasers in Amphorius are directly referenced and based off of the Honkai Impact 3rd Flame Chasers, beings that live and experienced through the Elysian Realm assimilated world. This is even referenced when Phainon talks about his hometown, Ides Elysia. But much like the Elysian Realm in Honkai Impact 3rd, Amphorius is heavily theorized to be trapped in a time loop. Either a direct time loop or a memory time loop. One of the two. Experiencing the same events on repeat over and over again. So obviously this whole prophecy has come to fruition quite a few times already. Phainon experiencing the tragedy of his family and friends dying over and over again. And the game both in 3.0 and 3.1 has made hints towards this prophecy not actually saving Amphorius but hastening its demise. Something that even the general public and the elders are already at odds with the Flame Chasers. How do we know for sure that this prophecy is going to save Amphorius from the Black Tide, killing the Titans and taking their core flames? This whole journey that they're on, we don't know where it leads for sure. But if this theory is true, then the Flame Reaver or Phainon from the future does, because he is the one that gets to see what happens, and it probably ain't great. And clearly, things did not work out the way they were supposed to, and now he's come to the past, knows exactly where and who to target, their weak points, and is trying to stop the prophecy. But why would he attack his home village? That is a question, isn't it? Obviously Cyrene is very important to the overall story and time loop of Amphorius. Obviously must have something to do with breaking Amphorius out of this time loop. But also, maybe this is a way for him to get young Phainon started on this journey so that he can ultimately become the Flame Reaver. We've seen this type of storytelling in other mediums like Flashpoint, Attack on Titan with Eren Yeager. Eren Yeager being the protagonist trying to save his friends and family, but you learn that he is the main antagonist all along, and all of the hardships that he's experienced are from his future self, making sure that he experiences these hardships to become his future self. That is the most oversimplified, brief summary I can give, but it would make sense why he would attack his own hometown, giving himself that trauma that he needs to get started on this path. If you're experiencing that trauma in a time loop over and over again, the Chrysos heirs, on this fruitless journey over and over again, then you would do whatever it took to break out of this cycle, this time loop. And how is he exactly able to do this? Well, that's where the Black Tide comes into play. He might have even embraced the corruption of the Black Tide. Like we've talked on this channel before, the Black Tide and the Abyss function the exact same way in both Teyvat and Genshin and in Amphoreus. We even got some Teyvat Easter eggs recently in Honkai Star Rail. But regardless, the Abyss isn't just a malice of corruption that destroys all worlds, corrupts all beings, turns them mad. That's one function it has. Another function it has in both Teyvat and Amphoreus is you can travel through it. There are worlds you can go to. We don't even know the extent of it. That is the whole point of the Abyss or Black Tide. It's very ambiguous. It's definitely a means to travel within other worlds, maybe even other dimensions, like we've seen with Skirk in Fontaine. But in Triby's origin and backstory talking to her mother, we learned that the Black Tide in Amphoreus also functions the same way. You can travel through it. This might be exactly how Phainon from the future is able to actually travel around, get from point A to point B, and maybe even be in this current era of the time loop. For all we know, this future Phainon could have been the only sole survivor of Amphoreus when it eventually met its demise. Maybe he's even the one that created the time loop by killing his friend Cyrene. There's a lot of interesting angles they could take this. When dealing with time loop shenanigans, there's a lot of paradoxes that can happen. Would the Flame Reaver now become part of the time loop? You see how this can get crazy, but something to do with time is the finality, the Eon. This Eon also being able to travel through time. And Kevin Kaslana is the unsung hero of Honkai Impact 3rd, the leader of the Flame Chasers of the previous era, that fought against the Honkai, which was basically the Black Tide for their world. He failed, and over time and centuries, he became the villain, the embodiment of finality. We thought at the time, when Welt and Acheron were talking in Penacony, this was just an Easter egg and throwback to Honkai Impact 3rd. Little did we know that they're sort of foreshadowing Amphoreus and Phainon, who is Kevin Kaslana's export or variant, flying too close to the sun, becoming so obsessed with fighting against what you sought to destroy, what you sought to save your friends and family and humanity from, that you in the end become the villain. And if this all turns out to be true, then they're actually staying true to the character of Kevin, but also giving it a different sort of twist on it. I don't consider myself an expert at reading between the lines, but when Phainon mentions going for the Sky Titan next, and Nexa says, "Can you fly?" You, Phainon, can you fly? Then he states, "Can the Flame Reaver fly? If he could, I would not have made it out of the grove alive." I mean, it's right there. And also, shut the hell up, Anexa. You are, without knowing, planting the seed in Phainon's brain for the future Flame Reaver to actually brainstorm how to kill the Sky Titan. So maybe just shh. It really is just a sad irony. Phainon expresses how much he hates the Flame Reaver, who is the one that destroyed Ides Elysia. The irony being that that hatred is what's going to set him on this path. Now finally I want to talk about where this leads. Like, what is the endgame here? If the Flame Reaver is Phainon of the future, what is he trying to do and what is he trying to change? And he's trying to collect all of the core flames. What's the endgame here? If you collect all Titan's core flames, do you become an Eon itself? Is the memory and time loop of Amphoreus the story of an unsung hero striving to save humanity, ultimately ascends into Eonhood and becomes one of the most dangerous individuals in the entire galaxy? Obviously, it would be cool if he became the Eon of Finality at the end of this, and what we're witnessing in Amphoreus is fully in the other Eon's attempt to try to quell that Eon's ascension, or at least gather information on it. But another cool theory is the destruction. What if Phainon is Nanook? And this is how he becomes the Eon of Destruction, much like Mem said. Death and destruction. That would certainly fit a narrative for a Kevin export variant. But don't we already know Nanook's backstory and how that Eon ascended into Eonhood? I mean, yes, we do, but we also know that throughout Honkai Star Rail's history, the IPC, along with other factions like the history fictionologists, and while the Eon of Enigmata, Mythos, are always trying to skew history, change the facts, shrouded in mystery and misconception, literal false information. And Nanook the Eon of Destruction is the biggest antagonist in the entire game. It's the first Eon with his goon squad of antimatter legions we run into on the Herta space station, the Lord Ravagers. It would be very cool if we're learning the truth of that Eon's ascension. That is just another possibility. And actually get to see the full effect of the Enigmata and all of the history they construed it in a very deep way that's meaningful. We thought we knew when and how Nanook ascended, but maybe all along the Enigmata and the IPC hid that. Also, Aglaya mentions like 1,000 times that the Chrysos heirs, this prophecy, have golden blood running through their veins. And wouldn't you know it, Nanook, with lacerations and golden blood, even has the same hair color as Phainon, with golden flames around him, a subtle nod to the Flame Chasers, and Nanook even has that darkened black sun in his splash art, much like we see in the trailers, and something referenced when talking about the Flame Reaver and Kevin Kaslana, when Welt was reminiscing. This is obviously purely a theory. The Flame Reaver could also be something else, maybe an Emanator. We already had an Emanator of Nihility in Penacony, so I think another cool possibility could be maybe an Emanator of Finality, one of the Omen Vanguards for example. There are a lot of interesting ways they could tie this all together, but regardless, I do believe the Flame Reaver to be some form of Phainon. I have to believe with 3 Eons being involved in Amphoreus, and Phainon being a Kevin variant, that they probably have some big plans with Phainon and the Flame Reaver, the one that will witness the new era, the era of destruction. Plus, you gotta admit, it always makes for a more intriguing story when the ultimate hero, the good guy, the main character, which Phainon totally is in Amphoreus, is the ultimate villain. But regardless, what do you think? Do you think Phainon is the Flame Reaver? And if so, where did he come from? A different incarnation of the time loop? Has he found a way outside the time loop? And if that's the case, what's the endgame here? I'm very curious to read your thoughts in the comments, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.